What is the meaning of life?
Well, Monis, I have no fucking idea.
Fade in. Cut to.
Exterior. Interior.
Restaurant?
Bar. Club.
Day.
Night.
Action.
Thank you for watching our inaugural video presentation of Restaurant Fiction. My name is Monis Rose. What is Restaurant Fiction? We are the podcast turned show, obviously, that reviews fictional restaurants, bars, and clubs in TV and film, as well as bring on the creative tastemaker, the influencer, the chef, the executive, the showrunner, the writer, the director, yada, 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 to talk about the iconic institution. Anyway, who is today's guest? It is none other than Quentin Tarantino's mentor. That's what I like to call him. His name is Jon Amiel. Jon Amiel, well, let's see. He directed a movie with Hilary Swank called The Core. He directed a movie with Harry Connick Jr. called Copycat. And he directed the Catherine Zeta-Jones and Sean Connery film Entrapment. He is on Restaurant Fiction not to talk about those films, but to talk about the fictional cafe called Lucky Cafe from his film, one of his earliest films, Queen of Hearts. We are doing it at his wife's coffee shop all the way in Santa Monica. It's called Rustic Coffee, with obviously his wife, Tara. They were incredibly kind to us at Restaurant Fiction, provided some of the best scones, provided some of the best cups of joe in all of California. Honestly, before we even start, get your butts to Rustic Coffee. Do yourselves a favor. Even if you don't live in the SoCal area, we'll just fly, go to Rustic Coffee, go back to wherever you live. Trust me, you'll die happy because of it. All right, that's enough about us. That's enough about our incredible introduction. I mean, John and Tara are all over the place. Just even meet them at Rustic Coffee. We're gonna get to this awesome conversation, break down the Lucky Cafe, break down Rustic Coffee, and just talk about life. All right, thanks for watching. When you're in London, coffee shops are a dime a dozen. Let's just say, like, as soon as Starbucks came on the scene 30 years ago, boom, 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 you know? And yeah, if you want corporate Starbucks and coffee, great, tomato, tomato. But if you want a mom and pop joint that really treasures the espresso, treasures the coffee ground, you go to a mom and pop joint in the Italian quarter of London, in Clerkenwell. And how do you know that this place delivers and makes the best cappuccino, the best espressos? Well, just look at the machine. You see, the machine has a name. La Bella Macchina, the beautiful machine. You see, this is, and also when you look at it, you see this beautiful bronze or gold-plated machine, and there is an eagle at the top. And an eagle signifies that this machine is made with the ultimate craftsmanship, the ultimate art, and the fusion of all things coffee and espresso. And what is also great and beautiful about this machine? Well, guess what? It's not automatic. It is manual. It is manual to a T. So it takes an artisan in a way to make your cup of joe, if you will, your espresso, your double shot. And what am I trying to say here? Because that means your water temperature is going to be perfect. The pressure is going to be perfect. There's going to be an ebb and flow. There's going to be this just amazement. Because when you get either your cup, either a little bite size or a cappuccino, well, it's kind of like the contents inside the Holy Grail. It's going to be dark. It's going to be rich. It's going to be creamy. It's going to be Goldilocks. It's going to be just right. Now, so what are we trying to say at Restaurant Fiction? Well, you know, to run a small mom and pop joint like Rustic Coffee, where we are right now, or like the Lucky Cafe, it's not all sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops. But when you put the love in coffee, it truly, truly shines. All right, so we are talking to the director of Queen of Hearts, which features the Lucky Cafe, the fictional restaurant of the director's work, Jon Amiel. Jon, how was that review of your coffee shop, the Lucky Cafe, and your movie? How was that review?
Yeah, not bad. We've had better, but I'll take it. No, it was great. It'll do absolutely fine. And what you say about the coffee is true, but really I think why people come to neighborhood cafes like the Lucky Cafe, or indeed like Rustic Coffee right behind me, it's about a lot more than the coffee. It's really about a vibe that's generated by the people that run the place. And, you know, fine, if you're in a foreign city and you see a Starbucks and it's a familiar name and you want a familiar taste of fairly mediocre coffee, then good luck to you. But places like the Lucky Cafe and places like this really cater for a community, and they work best when they're plugged into that community. The Lucky Cafe, run by Italian immigrants for immigrants, create a place where people can come and sit and play cards all day and nobody gives them shit, or a place like this where all the local neighborhood now come just to hang, to see and to be seen. That's what really good local cafes are about. You're right, they're about love, but it's not just the love that goes into the making of that cup of coffee. Fresh baked food, handmade sandwiches. That's what a sense of home is really what you're looking for.
And what are your ways of making it more than just a place for characters to talk?
Well, there's a huge challenge with the restaurant. As a director, I generally deplore scenes where people are sitting at a table and talking to each other. There's no new shot that
Sorry,
you
guys.
can do. I loathe and despise those awful tracking shots where you follow a bogus waiter, in order to get to the table, and that's supposed to be your establishing shot. Essentially, you're kind of stuck with two people talking to each other at a table the moment you get to a restaurant. So the challenges are to create any kind of dynamism. Yes, I could get up and you could track me over to the counter where I pick up my cappuccino and my cranberry orange scone. Hardly the stuff of great drama. But I think the fact is that, unless you're shooting a scene like Goodfellas, where the guys hang out in this club cafe and that's where the shootings happen, and Michael Imperioli gets a bullet in his foot from Joe Pesci. Unless you're doing that kind of shit, you have to accept that most restaurant scenes are going to be about talking. And then you just got to make sure the talk's damn good. The worst thing on the planet is exchange of views dialogue. So I hear you just got married recently, Fred. Tell me about you're married. That sort of shit. What you need is drama, and drama is based in conflict. And so somehow, if you're getting a good scene in a restaurant, it should ideally play this fruitful tension, the disparity between the seemingly placid surface of the restaurant, the service, the food, the white linen napkins, the clink of good crystal, the sparkle of silverware, and the tension that's going on between the interlocutors at that table. That's when you start to make good drama out of a restaurant scene.
Quentin Tarantino publicly has complimented you on giving him writing advice on Reservoir Dogs.
Where did you do that? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
When you told me that in the email,
yeah.
I very pleasant. I went, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, there was several movie blogs. I literally Googled, I pretty much just Googled you, and then I also just Googled you and other amazing directors, and that was it was like synonymous. Your name and his name was like, okay, awesome. But what he said, is that you gave him the note on Reservoir Dogs, because it was like the 25th anniversary of Reservoir Dogs, and you gave him the note of subtext. Like, you were like, hey, Quentin, no, this is not verbatim, but it's like, dude, subtext, man. And from that, he's like, you made him a better writer. He didn't, and he compliments you. So what I'm saying is, how does, first and foremost, how does a director enhance a writer, and vice versa? How does a writer enhance a director?
I love the job of mentoring, and I got to be an advisor at Sundance at the Directors Labs for several years. And one of the first directors I got to work with was this young, highly energetic, and obviously brilliantly gifted young director called Quentin Tarantino, working on Reservoir Dogs. And yes, that was part of my feedback to him, and there were a few other things we talked at length about: structure, story structure, and I think I was able to be useful to him in ways that I would always have loved some mentor to have been useful to me. Director is always tricky. You have to tread extremely delicately, because you don't, they have a vision, they have a sense of autonomy that's very important to a director. And so working director to director, you have to work on an extremely, you don't need to be delicate, but you need to be extremely circumspect and respectful in terms of the advice you give and the way you give it. As a director who works a great deal with writers, and I just came from a 3-hour session working with a writer this morning, it's different. You, as a director, you're essentially both trying to impart your vision while empowering them to populate that vision with their own sensibility and their own particularity with the details, so that what you get back from them is something that they feel is as much theirs as yours. To me, a movie is like an aeroplane. You're going to basically take off in that plane and you're going to fly the Atlantic in a lot of turbulence. That's what making a movie feels like. If you haven't fucking bolted the wings onto that thing properly, if you suddenly go, oh, I think we need a new wing actually, and you're flying at 35,000 feet in high turbulence, you're screwed. So I take the script and shake it like a puppy with a slipper till nothing else falls off, and then tighten it, build it, rework it, re-engineer it until it feels totally, to continue my rather strained analogy, airworthy.
You've made films that have been personal. You made big budget sci-fi films. You made psychological thrillers. What are your ways of having such an amazing, varied career versus being pigeonholed in one space?
Yeah, so, I look at myself, I think I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a husband, a lover, a friend, blah, 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 blah. I'm all these different things. I look at, and each of them has a different expression. I look at the films I've loved, and I look at the huge variety of films I've loved, the variety of genres. And when I set out to be a filmmaker, I basically said, I want to make, film in every genre I've ever loved. I want to make a horror film. I want to make a serial killer thriller. I want to make a romantic comedy. I want to make a screwball comedy. I want to make a disaster movie. I want to make a beautiful heist movie. I want to make a crime comedy like the Danny Kaye movies that I grew up with. You know, this was my dream. It was a mistake professionally. I thought, oh, how clever to put my imprimatur on all these different genres. So if a studio had a comedy, or they had a murder mystery, or a rom-com, or whatever, they go, oh, Amiel could do that. What I didn't bargain with was we were quietly sailing into the age of specialization, you know, and more these days in America, you've got, you know, a knee injury. You don't go to an orthopedist anymore. You go to a knee guy. And, you know, and somebody will tell you, well, he's better with right knees than left knees. You know, you should go to the left knee guy. In Hollywood now, it's more like, you know, they've got a movie about two men and a dog, and you directed a movie about two men and a cat. They go, no, it's great, but there was a cat. We want a guy who did the the two guys and a dog movie. They're looking for in a world where the outcome of green lighting a movie is so desperately uncertain. They're looking for certainties. And to them, in their extremely limited imaginations, the guy that did it before is the best guy to do it again. When I cast actors, I work on exactly the opposite principle. I will, you know, if somebody comes in to me and she's always played blonde ingenues, and she's coming in for a blonde ingenue, I'm looking at it thinking, why would I do that? She's going to be bored. I'm not going to be excited, and the audience is not going to be surprised. But what if I cast that blonde ingenue as the psychopathic nanny, as Curtis Hanson had the good wits to do with Rebecca De Mornay in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, for example? Now it's interesting. Now, because artists, actors, directors work best when they're scaring themselves. And you're scaring yourself because you're going to somewhere you've never gone before. But from that element of fear comes excitement. And in that excitement, there's a freshness, there's a rawness, there's something that an audience will actually feel. I'm unrepentant about my choices, even though it's not helped my career. I continue to love to scare the shit out of myself in the choices of movies I make. And one of the ways I do that is by doing something I've never done before, and feel in the doing of it, I'll learn a lot.
Action!
How do you put, I guess, love into everything you make? Like, how do you put that awesome Tara love into everything you make, creatively, culinary-wise, whatever?
Okay, well, that's an easy question because it's easy because I love what I do and love everything that I make, and it's a labor of love for me. Yeah.
I can vouch for that because she most mornings has to get up at 5 a.m. to start baking fresh. You know, you can only do that and keep smiling at customers all day if you actually love what you're doing. Also, having watched Tara, you know, fight with owners of restaurants that she's run because they want to substitute materials from Costco or Smart and Final when she wants, you know, well-grown, you know, fresh farm eggs and Strauss Farms yogurt instead of generic yogurt, and watching her choose her ingredients with love and respect for the people that are going to eat her food. That's where I also see the love going in.
Yeah, for sure.
How did both of you find your voice, your creative voice, and how would you describe that voice?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's hard. It's very competitive out here, and people want to always take the easy way out. And I think being original and sticking to your true roots and staying at it, people really appreciate that.
I think Tara also has a really good sense of who her customers are. And
Going back to your audience.
yes, as a filmmaker, I need to understand my audience. As a restaurateur, you need to know your customers.
Absolutely.
And there's no point in obsessing about high-end ingredients if you're catering for an audience that doesn't give a shit. But this customer base does, and they're immediately responding to handmade foods. You can't get that delicious orange and cranberry scone that I just inhaled.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't mean to interrupt you, but usually scones are dry as fuck. That was buttery and moist, and
That comes from my southern background. Many buttermilk biscuits. So I incorporate biscuit recipe into the scone recipe, which gives it that lighter taste.
And I don't even like scones. I would never have a scone as a rule. They're not my thing. But those orange cranberry scones. So yeah, it's about knowing your audience, knowing your customer, and I think that in our very different ways, that's what we both try and do.
Yep.
you have a choice of getting advice from either your 18-year-old self or your 90-year-old self. And remember, your 90-year-old self is lucid, they're healthy, they're everything is working in good order. Who are you receiving advice from?
Probably my 18-year-old self. I was just on the move at 18. I just had this entire world ahead of me, and I was like all over it.
So what advice is your 18-year-old self giving you?
Just go for it. This time it was just do it again. I was not going to do this. I was like, I'm done. And she was like, no, do it one more time.
And what advice is your 18-year-old self telling you to ignore? So the bad recommendations to ignore.
That's a hard one.
No, go on.
Um,
I'll answer. I presume you
Okay,
want me to answer.
it's telling me to ignore. I don't know. I didn't have much fear
Just a
back then.
belief that you can't do it.
Yeah.
You're not worthy of it, probably, isn't it? I mean, it's mostly that. At 18, it's very hard to have self-belief.
Yeah, when you're struggling with no money, starting out, you're like, I can't do this. But yeah.
John, you want to answer as well? 18-year-old self or 90-year-old self? 90-year-old self
Yeah,
is
I'd probably
lucid.
tell my 90-year-old self to fuck off with your wisdom and your kind of all that wise bullshit. There's a fascinating book called From Strength to Strength that posits the idea that actually great creative curve in one's life is basically done by the time you're 35. Most of us, in terms of cerebral and creative abilities, peaked by 35. And if you're going to thrive in this world, you have to recognize that there's a second curve, which is not about knowledge and about creativity, but understanding of how to use that knowledge and how to use that creativity. So I feel that my 18-year-old self was so determined to be mature and wise that I forgot to actually live part of my adolescence. Being a geeky guy with frizzy hair and glasses, I had to trade on the fact that I was, super mature, super smart, It was the only way I could get any interest from the girls at all. So I think there was a part of me that I forgot to really celebrate. That was wild, naive, but highly energized, and I kind of feeling like I want to celebrate that part of me now. Yeah.
What question to both of you am I not asking?
You haven't asked me what is the meaning of life.
John, what is the meaning of life?
Well, Monis, I have no fucking idea.
Still trying to figure that out.
I'm so glad you didn't ask me that question, because the more I live, the less I fucking know. So, go figure.
Well, shit, was that an awesome episode or what? First of all, thank you to Jon and Tara for talking to us at Restaurant Fiction. Thank you to you, the watcher, the audience, the listener, for watching this episode, for listening to this episode. All right, so anyway, number one is do yourselves a favor and get to Rustic Coffee in Santa Monica, California. It overlooks the ocean, Santa Monica Beach, Will Rogers Beach, Sunset Beach. If you surf, if you bodyboard, if you just want to hang out, go and then get yourself a coffee and a scone, or vice versa, and do it over and over and over again. Trust me, your body, your soul, your spirit will thank you. That's right. Tara's Joint, Rustic Coffee, Santa Monica, California. Number two, check out Jon's work. Not only Queen of Hearts, of course, that one, but all of his work. He directed a slew of movies and so many episodes of great television. And as for us at Restaurant Fiction, you found us. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching this inaugural episode of, we're going live, this video visual element. We've been scared for some time. We're getting past that fear, and we're putting a face to the logo, to the voice. But if you want to at least listen to more before we actually have more of these visual episodes, well, guess what? We're on the Spotify. We're on iTunes. Like, subscribe to us. Leave a comment. I believe I'm supposed to point here or there or there. I'm going to figure that out later. Working out the kinks to this anyway. We have well over 80 episodes. Pick and choose. Listen to them all. If you have a comment, concern, email me. My name is Monis at restaurantfiction.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And as always, keep it real, keep it fresh, and keep it on the flip side.
Cut to
Exterior. Interior.
Restaurant?